congratulations. Do you want the entire town to be pissed off at one person?
Hi, everyone. What a way to open it up. Good job. So we're live, but that's great. Do you want the whole town to be pissed off at one person? Well, people, you might have that with this particular playtest because we're talking about friends right now. Hi, welcome to Tabletop Worms. We are now live. I've got our buddy Colin, who is the other D&D guy that mostly chit-chats on our server. Off-screen husband is currently staying off-screen. He had a rough day, so he's just going to rest for a little bit. We're just going to go through the Unearthed Arcana that dropped today. I barely got to look at this. I was looking at cantrips for the past, 10 minutes or so. But yeah, there's a whole bunch going on. So we're just talking about the Friends cantrip right now, so I guess we can just start with cantrips, since that's where we started.
Yeah. So, we're going through the cantrips. I do like the fact that they've started getting into the habit, finally, of putting their design notes just in these playtests, so we can actually see what the intention is for everything.
I agree completely.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You should have done this from the beginning. I don't know why they didn't do this from the beginning. It would have made so much simpler.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, gosh, it would have made when they give us their intention, at least we can kind of go, well, we don't agree with it, but we see why.
That also, we don't have to be, when it's official, you then don't have to be like, okay, we got to go to Twitter and figure out the Crawford rule on this. If not, we got to completely come up with this from scratch.
Very true. There are a lot of things like that, and I think that's some of the stuff they are clearing up in these books. Yeah. All right.
The thing is that I'm looking at with some of these. So let's start with Acid Splash. Acid Splash, 5-foot sphere. I think the idea that they have for this is that maybe it would be taken on Gishes.
Gishes and maybe wizards that want to be able to do more, if they've got a group of people together.
The thing is that if you're imagining a sorcerer or a wizard, you're trying to imagine a situation where you're using Acid Splash. The most effective use of Acid Splash is found completely surrounded.
Yes.
Do I want to be completely surrounded?
Yeah.
No.
Well, the thing is that the range is 60 feet. So you can cast it from a distance and it explodes into a 5-foot sphere.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be awful for a ranged caster like the Sork or the Wizard. The downside is that it's a Sork or a Wizard. I like this on a Bard. I think this would be great on a Bard.
The thing is that if you give it to a Bard, with most of the offensive cantrips, whenever I'm like, oh, I'd really love this on a Bard, I have to remember, if you give them anything better than a D4, Vicious Mockery becomes obsolete immediately, and nobody will ever use it again.
Good point. That's a good point. But I mean, maybe this could be a cantrip they get at I don't know, their third or fourth cantrip as they level up.
You'd have to basically level restrict the Bard and what cantrips they can take, and that would suck.
Yeah. I'm saying for Acid Splash, for Sork and Wizard, this could be a second or third cantrip as they level up. And now it's Evocation instead of Conjuration.
It's not broken,
Nope.
I'd say. Though I would be a little worried with its scaling, actually, then basically invalidating some first and second. Specifically first level spells. It actually could end up, if you're able to tactically put things together with it, which you should be rewarded for, being better than those spells. Granted, it does acid damage, which is its own separate problem, because it's, besides poison, the next ring of most resistant.
Yeah. So the fire is most resistant, then you have the poison, but still. Or acid, yeah. Still, I agree. Level 5, you get 2d6. That's where it's not much at level 5, but at the same time, you're like, ooh, that can be nice. You're guaranteed at least 2 damage.
Blade Warden. Reaction when you take a responsible creature attacking you. So, fire tries to come and hit you. And on a hit, target 20-12 poison damage.
Yeah. Blade Ward I like.
Is the description cut off from me? Yes, it is. Okay. You just roll disadvantage on the stack roll and if they hit you. So it still does something.
Yeah. It's... I liken it to a baby shield. Like, shield gives you AC, this just gives them disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if those percentages are the same or not, because a plus... Shield is what, a +5?
Shield is a +5. The average for disadvantage is going to be theoretically a -4.
Okay, so it's similar.
Yes, though this is using your reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use shield. So that means for the sorcerer, warlock, and wizard, don't use Blade Ward. Unless you are a Hexblade warlock, in which case you might have a reason to use Blade.
Yeah, well, a Hexblade Warlock means it's a cantrip.
If you're a sorcerer paladin, you might have a reason to use it. If you are a bard, if you are a swords bard, you have a reason to use it, actually.
Yes.
So,
Bards absolutely. Valor Bard would actually have a good reason to use it as well.
yeah.
Because Valor Bard is really slept upon.
Now, Chill Touch, How the Mighty Have Fallen.
Yes.
It was, but it is, in current edition, the runner-up, basically, to Fireball. Or Firebolt.
Yes.
For the offensive cantrips.
Yes. I have Chill Touch up here for those of you that don't know. It's currently 120 feet. Now it's a touch.
Yeah, I think I haven't ever felt like I needed to explain this really with the designers, but I think this will come up in my feedback on this playtest, at least. Especially if you're going to be looking at the classes you've restricted this to. I guess they're like, this should be primarily a warlock spell. Sure, the wizard and the sorcerer can take, but it's really going to be a warlock. It's going to be a warlock. Cool if that's the intention, whatever. But it is basically going to go from second place to any other cantrips that require you to a melee attack, or that, not melee attack, they require you to have like 5-foot range.
Yes.
They plummet to like almost never taken.
Yeah, this will be never taken.
Play, you're going to need to actually increase the range to at least 10 feet or more.
I mean...
and at 10 feet, it's so dangerous.
I would say put it at like 15 or 20. And then they can call it a day. That's not bad.
The wizard likes to sit 30 feet back. So my idea is the wizard is comfortable moving 20, at least 15 feet on a turn forward.
Yes.
No closer.
Yes.
The wizard is comfortable moving. Should be not encouraged to move further back than another 15 feet because then monsters start struggling to actually ever be able to reach them if they get past the front line.
Yeah, and Chill Touch at 120 feet, that's basically Eldritch Spear plus Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the range was the problem, you really want, like, the maximum range for a cantrip, I think, actually should be 60 feet, unless you have something like Eldritch Spear.
Yeah, that makes sense. Arlon Wolf here in chat is saying that in 3.5, Chill Touch was a touch. So they evidently changed it between 3.5, 4th edition, and 5th edition, and now they're just going back to it. Preventing regeneration past heal.
Rider, but they also got rid of the restriction. On one hand, I felt like the restriction kind of sucked with the undead, but the benefit, the extra benefit, only applied when it was undead, where they got disadvantage. Everything else, Chill Touch still did regardless, which made it really good. And also out of meta, it meant that when you fought something like a troll or something,
right,
you didn't have to be like, I need to know that I can't use my information. Do I have some history check or something that I know that I need to use fire? No. Or basically have the argument of this is the only thing on my spell list that I can use right now.
Yeah.
Either or. Instead, you could be like, well, I got 2 cantrips. One deals fire damage, the other one stops the hit point regen. Oh no, the enemy is regenerating hit points. I'm just gonna start using shield attacks. And that works. I think that one will need some tweaking. I just don't think that you're gonna really even see the martial builds particularly want it.
No.
Yeah,
No.
10. That's okay right now.
D10 is okay, yeah.
But you're not getting extra modifiers on top of the damage there, and not regaining the hit points.
Yeah, and now it can't regain hit points until the end of your next turn, whereas currently it's the start of your next turn, but that's not enough to change that range.
If you're going for that rider, you're going to use this purely for the rider.
Exactly.
You're actually not using it for the damage itself. You're basically saying, everyone else beat the crap out of it while it can't heal.
Yeah, and that's a way to basically take a troll and make it so that they can't heal. And nuke a troll. Trolls still have to be killed with fire damage, but point stands is you can nuke it to high heaven and get it close.
Yeah. Pretty much the only way I can think of that you could do a touch range spell and have it only available to the squishy casters, quote unquote, is to basically give them a disengage or make it a bonus action. And you don't want to make chill touch a bonus action.
No, you don't. You really don't, because then you could cast a spell and then cast this.
Then you have the cheese, because cantrips are able to be cast in the same turn as on the spell.
Exactly. They have to find a way to prevent that cheese. If they want to keep it balanced. Friends! Oh, this is a nice change.
Pull up friends on 5e tools real quick.
Will do.
Read out the current spell.
Okay, so Friends, as it currently stands, is a casting time of 1 action with a range of self. It has components, but no one cares about the components. It is concentration up to 1 minute. The only change so far in that is that it is 10 feet now, instead of self. They're both enchantment cantrips, and they are also all both available to Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. So for the current 5th edition, for the duration, you have advantage on all charisma checks directed at one creature of your choice that isn't hostile towards you. When the spell ends, the creature realizes that you used magic to influence its mood and becomes hostile towards you. A creature prone to violence might attack you. Another creature might seek retribution in other ways at DM's discretion, depending on the nature of your interaction with it. Now, you magically emanate a sense of friendship towards one visible creature within range. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have the charmed condition for the duration, which is 1 minute. The target succeeds automatically if it's not a humanoid, if you're fighting it, or if you have cast the spell on it within the past 24 hours. Spell ends early if the target takes damage, or if you make an attack roll, deal damage, or force anyone to make a saving throw.
So, remember what I was saying earlier? So for everyone else that's listening, basically the current version of Friends is not a good spell.
No, it's not.
Almost any players, it's like, oh, you see the advantage on your charisma checks. It's like, that's great for my bard. And then you see that it instantly makes people hostile to you. And you're like, no, I like using persuasion because it doesn't do that.
Yes.
But if you're a warlock and you've got the actor feat and you've got Devil and you've got Mask of Many Faces, one way that I have seen this used is to dress up as somebody that you don't like, act as them, and then cast friends of as many people in the city and town as possible. Just ask them to do something stupid. It doesn't really matter what you ask. They're immediately going to become hostile anyways, and then turn back into your normal self as soon as the massive mob starts showing up.
Exactly.
And
That's great, though.
Now left with a question. The NPCs that you cast friends on don't know that it wasn't really the person that this guy's been acting as this whole time. So does he meta basically go over that and decide that no, somehow they just know it's you? In which case, then congratulations, the spell is completely dead. Nobody will ever use it ever again.
Exactly.
And the Warlock has wasted one of 2 possible cantrips that they get to know.
Exactly.
Great. Or B, congratulations, your Warlock has single-handedly managed to turn an entire city against one person.
Right, and that's just broken within itself. So,
Yeah, that line did not need to be there.
no,
Should not be there.
for a leveled spell, absolutely. For friends, not so much. And
Actually, for a level spell, Charm Person doesn't do this.
it doesn't. Oh, that's right, it doesn't. Arlon Wolf asked about the charm condition in 5.0, and the charm condition, just to give everyone awareness, it's not mind control. A charmed creature can't attack the charmer or target the charmer with harmful abilities, and the charmer has advantage on any ability checks to interact socially with the creature. So you can't just persuade and make them do something. That's command. Basically, you can just have advantage to persuade them.
Yeah. Also, one thing, Charm Person tells the creature that they know that they were charmed by you, but it doesn't make them hostile to you.
Right.
Afterward. So, that specific line actually is the only thing currently breaking the friend spell in 5e.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that this makes it actually usable for the classes it was intended for, because outside of that one niche build, which was basically building around having the friends cantrip and nothing else.
Yes.
Like, well, friends cantrip and like infiltration, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this change. It lets bards actually have a cantrip that they can use that isn't just vicious mockery and like prestidigitation.
Yes. Poison spray.
Ooh, yes.
Launch it's the toxic energy creature. They increase the damage.
Yes.
Again.
It is now one of the few 1d12 cantrips.
Yeah. Actually, no, it's still one of the 1d12s. It hasn't been increased.
Oh, it has. Oh, that's right. It is 1d12 currently. It has increased its range.
Yes.
So now poison spray is up to 30 feet.
Mm-hmm. Again, now it theoretically be usable, but that wasn't the issue with poison spray. Poison spray's issue is the fact that it does poison damage, which around like level 5, when you go, oh, I can get 2d12. No, you won't, Chief. At best, everything you run into around then starts to get resistant. At worst, everything you're running into starts becoming immune.
And the current poison spray requires a constitution saving throw. The new one is a ranged spell attack.
At least that makes it more usable.
Yes.
Because everything that you'd also run into that probably you'd use poison spray on also probably has decent constitution.
Exactly. So. Yeah, this was a well-needed change for poison spray. Would I take it?
No,
meh.
It's still bad. Just because it's damage type. It's damage type means that whatever the average damage you would roll, you're also cutting that in half.
Yeah. So, it's not great.
Just how it is. Produce flame.
Well, I have not seen this one yet, so let's see what it looks like here. Oh, they changed it to a bonus action.
Yes, they did.
That is very nice.
But that's because you're gonna need to basically use your action if you want to chuck the thing.
Okay. So current produce flame has everything's the same for everything that we just talked about except the bonus action. That's really nice. Current does it produce flame. A flickering flame appears in your hand. The flame remains there for the duration and harms neither you nor your equipment. The flame sheds bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 10 feet. The spell ends if you dismiss it as an action or if you cast it again. You can also attack with the flame, although doing so ends the spell. When you cast the spell or as an action on a later turn, you can hurl the flame at a creature within 30 feet of you, which leads to some great shenanigans. Make a ranged spell attack. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 fire damage. So now...
I'm not sure how I feel about this quite.
A flickering flame appears in your hand and remains there. While there, the flame emits no heat and ignites nothing, and it sheds bright light 20 foot and an additional 20 feet, so now you get more light. The spell ends if you dismiss it as a bonus action or cast it again. You can take the magic action to hurl fire at a creature or an object within 60 feet, so increase the range, and you make a ranged attack with the same damage.
On one hand, I like the fact they changed it to a bonus action, and you might actually attack with it now, maybe, but at the same time, it's now double dipping into resources.
Yes.
It's taking both your action and your bonus action, which, granted, druids don't have a ton of uses for their bonus action anyways, I guess. If you're going for a spellcaster druid and not a wild shape druid.
Yeah, and this lets druids be able to light an area without having to have dancing lights or anything like that.
Yeah. But...
And not hurt anything. Magic attack doesn't extinguish the flames.
It's not necessarily good either. It's very mediocre, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I guess is okay. There needs to be mediocre spells.
Yeah, there have to be.
Lord knows. If every spell was as good as, say, Shield, we'd have some serious spells, probably.
True. Arlon is noting that because it's not actual fire, magical attacks won't be able to really make it go away, like with water or anything like that.
Yes.
So at least that has that.
Now, here's a question. Will you ever decide to use Produce Flame over Shillelagh? Well, I guess it's a melee attack specifically with Shillelagh.
Yeah, it's specifically melee with Shillelagh. It's just give druids Firebolt. That's the answer to this, is just give druids Firebolt.
Yeah.
They're the master of the elements. Let them cast elemental cantrips and spells.
The funny thing is, if I'm going to do, with the current D&D, if I'm going to play a druid, my first level won't be in druid, it'll be in sorcerer.
Yes. Arlon mentions that you can attack with the flame multiple times, so you can hurl it and move it, and then hurl it and move it again and keep attacking. Which is true. And I have seen my husband do this with his druid before, and it was quite hilarious. Because we also treated it as because it was on fire. No one wanted to get near it.
But at the same time, it's not leaving necessarily an AoE sort of thing. It's not denying 5 foot squared that's now on fire.
See, that would be good.
Still, every turn having to use your action to do this. Otherwise, you just have a magical ball of fire in your hand as you do your normal action.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not losing anything as a cantrip, except for the action that still needs to be spent to actually attack with it. So, yeah, Shillelagh.
This is nice. It sucks a little bit, but it's also like, okay, I get where they're going with it.
Yeah.
They don't want a cantrip to make a magic weapon.
Yeah.
For those of you that haven't read this yet, Shillelagh has been changed to, now you can use any club or quarterstaff, not just a wooden one, but the weapon no longer becomes magical. That's one of the key things. It does deal force damage, or the weapon's normal damage if you want to, but it doesn't make it magical.
Also, I think the confirmation more so on that monster design thing that was brought up when we were looking at the last playtest with the barbarian. They're getting rid of saying that it is magical damage. Specifically, it's magical whatever damage now. It's just going to be force. Which means that if rage doesn't block force, tough luck.
Yep.
Barbarians aren't tanky anymore.
Yeah, basically. And we have discussed how much we disliked that 2 days ago.
That said, this spell by itself hasn't really changed in terms of how it's going to be used, nor who it appeals to, really. Most druids actually probably don't necessarily want to resort to using Shillelagh, but other classes that actually use Wisdom as a secondary score might consider it.
Yeah, my husband being the druid player that he is, because his main classes that he's played so far are barbarian and druid. He likes coming up with builds for Shillelagh, and one of them, if I remember correctly, and he can correct me if I'm wrong because he's in the bathroom and he can hear me. Spores druid would use Shillelagh, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Spores definitely would. As a matter of fact, Spores druid with monk.
Yes. Oh wow, that would be great.
Yes, Spores druid, 2 levels barbarian, rest monk.
Yes.
Would do pretty decent DPR with it. Granted, you probably actually, the new Shillelagh specifically, I should say, because it's not requiring concentration or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be a wooden weapon, so you can make it your Kensei weapon or something like that.
Did you notice? I just noticed this. Shillelagh gets damage upgrades now.
Yeah.
So it goes up to D10, D12, and then 2D6. So they actually want like a melee druid to try and use it, or heaven forbid somebody multi-class.
Shocking grasp.
Shocking grasp. Ooh.
Let's see.
That one is still a touch.
Yeah. The rider is intact. Okay. Same damage.
Evocation, action. Current shocking grasp is that lightning springs from your hand. To deliver a shock to a creature you can try to touch, make a melee spell attack against the target. You have advantage on the attack roll if the target is wearing armor made of metal. On hit, the target takes 1d8 lightning damage and can't take reactions until the start of your next turn. I think they narrowed this down.
They just got rid of the metal part.
Okay, so they got rid of the metal part, and it's no longer reaction, it's opportunity attacks.
Yeah.
So,
which is more specific, which
yes.
I actually don't like as much. I liked it just depriving the reaction, like that gives some versatility and stops certain things from happening. Like a lot of the hexes in the game or curses.
Mm-hmm.
They are reaction abilities by monsters.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So...
They nerfed it.
Yeah.
They nerfed a cantrip that's already melee and I imagine was only used by, like, storm sorcerers that are dipping with cleric.
Spare the dying.
Oh boy, how did they change this one again?
We learned about this change earlier. Basically, that they were just... Because if they left it as it was, where it just brought someone to 1 HP, it was infinite healing then. With the change they were made to the dying condition.
Yeah.
So, we knew this one had to change.
Yeah.
Instead, if it hits 0, has 0 hit points, yet it's alive, they become stable.
And it's ranged now.
15 feet now.
Yep. They made it 15 so that grave clerics wouldn't be stepped on, which is fair.
Yeah.
And the spell's range doubles at level 5. Well, I mean, grave cleric isn't in the current iteration of the book, so...
Yeah. Grave cleric specifically is the one who breaks this cantrip open for the current version, which should actually be somewhat decent. But otherwise, I don't even think other clerics or druids will ever really want to take it. Except for if they know that their party's going to constantly be going down. In which case... Yeah. You know, with the new rules about going down specifically, I guess...
I do not... pardon my lack of knowledge, I don't remember the new rules about going down. So
just because you get HP back once you go down does not mean you return to consciousness.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So they're basically trying to stop the pogo.
Yes.
That kept happening.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now.
That said, there needs to be, I feel, a threshold where you return to consciousness regardless.
Yeah, like maybe you to return to consciousness after like a turn.
Word. It shouldn't be like healing word instantly does it if you're not a life cleric.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, giving you back your HP, you're still unconscious unless someone uses an action to shake you awake.
Yeah.
And you're just not dying.
Yeah, now you're just not dying. Yeah. As someone that loves Spare the Dying, I like this, but at the same time I'm like, oh, they're still going to be unconscious.
Like, because they're still going to be unconscious, you're just going to be like, I'd be better off using a bonus action healing spell than using my action to shake them awake. Exactly.
Exactly. Unless you have, like, only one enemy left, in which case, fair, but that makes Spare the Dying so niche. And so less...
The only time you Spare the Dying is, oh shit, I can't reach the last 15 feet to reach my companion. What could I do? I could throw a health potion, or I could just Spare the Dying. if I'm gonna have to guess if my DM will interpret throwing the health potion as working, I might use spare the dying. Otherwise, I'm throwing the potion.
Yeah, and with the way Baldur's Gate does throwing potions now, that might people will start doing that, and then it won't really matter.
Yeah. So unless you are a grave cleric, probably won't really get a lot of value out of that.
Yeah.
True Strike
This one is
is
nice.
actually, yeah.
So this one is one of those cantrips for people that aren't as familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. This is one of those cantrips that people like to make a meme out of because it is so bad. Current True Strike is so bad.
One of the funniest things I ever did as DM to freak out my players was I had cast True Strike. They didn't know what they did, and I burned 2 legendary resistances to get through their counter spells. And they were like, "Oh my god, what's about to hit us?" And then it was True Strike, and they're like, "Are you kidding me? We just burned 3rd level spell slots for that?"
Yeah, that's
all
fantastic.
They knew was the concentration spell.
Yeah.
That's all they knew.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just like statistically you're better off just attacking twice than taking True Strike and getting advantage on the next one. That's the whole point of how bad current True Strike is. This one, on the other hand, yeah, it's not 30 feet, which is kind of dumb. Like, why? Just True Strike yourself. I thought it was only yourself anyways. So guided by a flash of magical insight, you make one attack with the weapon used in the spell's casting. The attack uses...
That means its range doesn't matter.
That's true.
It's using self. That means that its range, if you use a bow, is 60 to 120 feet.
That is a good point. I didn't think of that. Yeah, now you can use it with your ranged weapons more effectively. And the attack uses your spellcasting ability for the attack and damage roll instead of strength or dexterity. Warlocks.
Warlocks will love this. Your paladin sorcerers are gonna love this.
Yep.
Your swordins. Your blade singers will love this. Your swords bards and valor bards will love this. It'll actually find a place on your gishes.
Yeah.
It'll actually be useful.
I can see this being a thing.
As a matter of fact,
oh god.
I wish they would open it up to basically. It's good enough now. Pretty much, they should make it available to at least one of the wisdom classes to give it to the druid. You know, so that way all the Gish builds that you might want to do can take True Strike.
Well,
because I think
I just thought of something really stupid. Well, I just thought of something really, really stupid. What if you have a character that has crossbow expert and crossbow and sharpshooter and then this? Would that work?
It still takes an action and it's immediately gone afterwards.
Yeah.
So, and you then have to still use a dexterity check for the next attack. So for a crossbow expert for the bonus action attack,
true,
you'd still be making a dexterity check.
That makes sense. But you could theoretically take sharpshooter with a longbow, be an elf,
yes, you could.
And then do that, and then this would be your just general cantrip of choice.
Yep.
And it'd be radiant damage too, as a wizard. Like, imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like that. That would be really cool.
So, overall, I would say that I'm just reading over what their intentions were with everything.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good idea.
So, Blade Ward. I'm just quickly going to pull up what Old Blade Ward specifically did. The resistance. Honestly, I'm thinking about it. I like it's a reaction. The disadvantage on one creature's melee attack roll. Most of the time when you'll be using this, you're being attacked by more than one thing. Most of the classes that would take this Blade Ward, excluding the Bard and... yeah, excluding the Bard, all of them have access to shields. They have a better reaction. So this is supposed to be bard only, basically.
Yeah.
Like, because they're the only ones that would take this. Like, you may as well just put it bard only on the spell list. Um, they're the only ones that would actually have value for it for a reaction. Otherwise, for a sorcerer, a warlock, or a wizard, it's a trap. Actually, maybe for a warlock you could find one, but it's still not a good reaction
Yeah,
for them.
it's not a good reaction for a wizard because they have enough spell slots they can get away with shield.
Unless they're at super low level.
Yeah.
Um, Same thing for a sorcerer. And likewise, I don't think it was ever too strong with the giving you resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage by weapon attacks. Considering it didn't cover magical damage, so
Yeah. Thought.
it was always a
Eldritch
debate.
Knights?
For Eldritch Knights, it would be
It'd be okay. They don't have a lot of spell
okay.
slots.
No, they don't. The thing I'm thinking of is it more worthwhile for them to have this than to have opportunity attacks?
My thoughts
Because
as
that,
well. That's exactly the kind of question I have. And maybe that's a good thing that we're having this question because now it's like, okay, you have a choice.
yes, actually. Um, I think that for a Eldritch Knight, it's a choice of a thing to do with your reaction. Do I want my reaction to be defensive or offensive now?
Right.
It gives them actually more flexibility than most fighters have with their reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, with the Arcane Trickster, it's a little less like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
please stop me from getting hit. Anything to stop getting hit.
Exactly.
Uh, with the Eldritch Knight, though, if you had it as a reaction based on the old one, it might be worth giving yourself resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for the whole round, not just the one attack.
True.
It's until your next turn with the current one. If it didn't use an action, it'd actually be worth using in the current way that it's implemented.
Yeah. Sorry, forgot to put
And
Blade Ward up here for everyone else.
I think that they would prefer that. For most the Gishes, except for, ironically enough, the pure spellcaster ones, they'd prefer that. Because
Yes.
they're tanky enough that cutting the damage they take in half, like if they're a barbarian, is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Current Blade Ward, I'd be like, hey, if you make that a bonus action, it would be taken by every Gish.
Yes. And
This one, as a reaction, is okay.
yeah, it's okay. I like that it's a choice for more of the bard, and they put it on the wizard spell list so that you can let Eldritch Knights have it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. If I were an Eldritch Knight, I may consider taking this. I think you only get 3 cantrips as an Eldritch Knight. I don't know what the new one looks like. But if you get
Yeah.
3, Blade Ward ain't bad.
Let's see. What other one was discussed? Chill touch. Disappointed, honestly. Um, you can get rid of the advantage against the undead
Yeah.
thing.
The Undead Rider
That's
didn't
fine.
matter. Not much.
But chill touch, I would rather do less damage and have it be the old chill touch. But that might be because it has been such a reliable spell that there was the other staple spell that used to be the companion to Firebolt, which was, I believe it was Ray of Frost, doesn't get used basically almost ever because you've got your 2-type coverage and you've got a better type coverage.
Yeah.
Cold is more resistant than necrotic.
Yep.
Why take it?
Exactly.
They deal the same damage.
Yep.
And touch range spells are just super unpopular. Honestly, if I was going to add one spell to this list, even if they were going to make it a touch range spell too, I would want something specifically for bards or make Vicious Mockery better, please.
Yeah, and the chill touch isn't even for bards, it's for sorks, warlocks, and wizards, and the only subclasses I can see taking this new chilled touch would be Blade Singer and Eldritch Knight.
Yep.
And maybe
There's
Hexblade.
one, which I get. It's no, it's still an action. For an Eldritch Knight, you get more attacks off
Oh,
because they're a
no,
fighter.
it's an action. No, it would have to be Bladesinger then. And even then, that's not a good.
Yeah, that's not a good use of your.
Yeah. No, no one would take this now.
Yeah. It's the only reason you take it is for the rider, and at that point, most creatures that have regeneration hit like a truck. So
Yeah.
anyone who can cast this does not want to be close enough to cast it.
Yeah. And if you're a paladin, if go pal Sork or Sorkinen, you wouldn't want to use this. You want to save it for your attack and smite. This is
The
just
thing
so
is,
bad.
if you're that, the question becomes, okay, I'm probably taking Blade Ward, right?
Yes.
All right, I've got 4 cantrips given to me through Sorcerer. There's going to be some new cantrips also given to me through being a paladin, but we're just assuming right now that we're looking at Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting 4 of them. The average way that you're going to distribute that then is going to be 2 offensive, 2 utility,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Blade Ward's already taking basically an offensive slot.
Yes. Especially in the
Now
new
you can
Blade
take
Ward.
whatever else for utility, so we're removing 2 of those, so you have one other choice. Is Chill Touch now more worthwhile than getting a ranged option?
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think it's not as well. And if you're gonna do that, they made a new spell that's even better with Shocking Grasp if you're gonna do this anyways. And more likely than not, you'd use True Strike instead of you do Blade Ward and True Strike because True Strike is now actually
True Strike's going to
doing
be
well.
taken a lot now.
Where at low levels you could justify with taking True Strike that it's better than my normal attacks, and therefore I can be kind of mono ability score. I don't have to actually care about my strength as much.
Right.
Now all those attacks are going to be done with my spellcasting.
Yeah.
At least until I get multi attack.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No, it's not going to it's going to go from one of the most taken to the least taken. It's going to get a nosedive, and it's not going to be well received on the survey. I mean, I'm going to be like, "Look, the current one is OP. You nerfed it too hard."
well, the current one I wouldn't necessarily say is OP. It's just sort of the environment around it. In isolation, Chill Touch is fine.
Yes.
The range should be trimmed back, but
Yes.
nobody was using it at 120 feet because most DMs would say that you couldn't see at 120 feet.
Yeah, unless you're like an eagle-eyed barbarian, and that's not. They wouldn't have it.
Yeah. Like, you're seeing like 60 feet in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's no point in any cantrip having a longer range than 60 feet.
No.
Really. But other than that, I'd say Chill Touch was fine in isolation. It's the fact that you have the meta situation of like, what's better, cold or necrotic damage if they both deal the same damage? Necrotic, because it's just the less resisted one.
Yeah.
And in this case, with the Undead Rider, it was nice as well because it's like, who's most likely to resist necrotic damage? The
Undead.
Yeah. But now I'm more likely to get it stick and actually have at least the rider stick, even if they are barely taking any of the necrotic damage.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that actually, as an internally balanced spell, I think that works well. It's just the damage type situation.
Yeah.
Which is also why I'm like, that's why I'm also like, Acid Splash, great, it's the first AoE, and I'm interested to see how it works in play. Would I take it if I'm being really serious? Probably not. If I'm starting anything above 3rd level, probably not taking it. I'll have actual AoE spells that are just better.
As someone that's DM'd Pathfinder, I know Pathfinder is what people aren't here for. Pathfinder has an amazing cantrip that's pseudo AoE. It's more like Chain Lightning. If Acid Splash turns out to act somewhat similar to that, people are going to pick it up all the time. Just
Mm,
period.
yeah, I think that it could be useful. It will be an option, but
Oh, it just
I
dawned on
don't.
me. You don't want to put this by your melee users, though.
Yeah, it'll also, though, with its range, you'll actually be able to do the if you're on a grid at least, you'll be able to do the fine positioning to not hit your allies.
Exactly, exactly.
As long as the enemy isn't up against a wall or something. Um, so as long as they're not against a wall and surrounded by all your allies, because you could just barely nick them with a 5-foot radius.
Yeah.
Um,
Friends,
friend,
this made sense.
yes, now now it's actually usable.
Yes.
Uh,
Poison spray. Now it's actually something people will actually pick. Maybe
I
not
still
all the
don't
time, but it's less crap.
I still don't think you'll actually see use, really, but at least it's, if you want to go for the motif of like you're a snake person or something, you can give them poison spray and it won't be complete dog shit.
Yeah. Produce flame. I didn't notice this. Produce flame can now attack creatures or objects. So that's actually not bad.
Yes, that actually is pretty good.
That makes it much better than what I was thinking. Being able to hit objects is great. Shillelagh increasing weapon damage. That's fine. It needed it. It needed it so badly.
Yeah.
Force damage option. That's fine too. Shocking Grasp. They actually make a good explanation here. Shocking Grasp now shuts down opportunity attacks rather than all reactions. Shutting down all reactions is too powerful for a cantrip. I agree. This cantrip has always been meant to provide a partial disengage, which it still does in this version. Like other lightning spells, the spell no longer makes distinctions about whether target is wearing metal. So, that all makes sense. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Spare the dying. As we talked about, that's mostly affected by the change to how dying is supposed to be done in 1D&D.
Yeah. And now it's on the druid list. That's a nice touch.
Yeah. True Strike. I mean, there was literally, I couldn't think of a way they could make it worse, so
Yeah.
I guess they could have been like, it takes up both your actions. I guess it's the only way it could have been worse.
Yeah.
So it was only up no matter what they did.
Yeah, and they made it a
now
good
it's
up,
actually
too.
good.
This is good.
Yes.
Like, I would genuinely take that as a caster. I mean, yeah, it's only 1d6, but it's radiant damage. And it's available to wizards, warlocks, sorcerers, and bards. Yes!
As a matter of fact, now the more I'm thinking about it, the more likely I'm actually just going to say, with this current version of True Strike, as a bard, it's doing more damage with a hand crossbow than my Vicious Mockery. I'd use True Strike instead.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
would just not take Vicious Mockery. I think accidentally, this might have been the thing to obsolete Vicious Mockery.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't think of that, but that makes sense, especially as a bard. I mean, you can do strength or dex, any weapon, literally any weapon.
It obsoletes the need for strength or dex.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a hex blade, basically.
Yeah.
You're using your charisma for a bard.
Yeah.
Instead, you're using spellcasting. So, yeah, there's just no need.
No,
to
damn.
use Mockery now. It's not your only attack because you're better off actually just using your hand crossbow and this.
Okay, maybe I missed something in here. So it says whether you choose to deal radiant damage or the weapon's normal damage type, the attack deals extra radiant damage when you reach levels 5, 11, and 17. At level 5, it says it's 1d6. I just noticed that it doesn't tell you how much damage you deal if you take it at level 1.
At level 1, I'm assuming it only does the weapon's normal damage, and then it adds the radiant damage when you hit level 5.
Okay. This is going to have to get cleared up a bit.
So it just is adding extra damage on top of whatever the weapon's normal damage would be.
I guess so. Yeah, the attack deals extra radiant damage. You're right. It's right there in front of my face. The attack deals extra radiant damage when you reach level 5. Good notice. Yep, that's actually good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I would take this in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I love it. Especially if you're a longbow. Oh man, if it's a longbow, that'd be so good. Sorry, I can't help that. That's great. So, we've basically covered the cantrips.
Yep. Do you want to look at the bastions?
Yeah.
Scroll up to the top of that section because there's quite a lot to cover.
Oh yeah, I haven't even looked at this yet. Like, I know that, like, I have the third party book that Strongholds and Followers that a lot of people use. That's basically what they're trying to do, is they're trying to dip into that. But it's like, oof. It's nice to have something that's actually official, whether we agree with it or not.
I mean, there is stronghold rules already in the DMG. They kind of suck, but
Yeah, and this is their first one dipping into the DM's book, and I am, as a fellow DM, I love this. This is so nice to have something. Granted, Bastions, we just kind of wing it in our group.
yeah.
But this it's nice to have something you can reference if you want to.
I mean, my goal whenever we create a home base is basically my goal is to turn whatever settlement is around it into pseudo utopia. So
Oh, see, we're the weird characters that whether I'm DMing or my husband's DMing, we always end up turning it into gambling and unholy places.
see, if I'm allowed to stay after my DM, it suddenly becomes like, okay, I want to reform the tax code. I'm going to be making X, Y, and Z fine changes so that way I can implement a public transportation network along with a regimented agricultural sector, and then reforms to how trading and tariffs are done. And all these small changes that when you add them up, you realize slowly that I'm just completely rebuilding how modern society is structured, even though I don't have the technology of it.
Yeah.
And so it then is like, what's life like in the capital? It's like medieval Paris in like the 18th, in like the 17th century. Okay. My city has a functioning sewer system, completely working doctors, a public transportation system. They have an abundance of food. The food prices are cheap. Building is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, no homelessness yet. It's basically just primed for a population explosion now.
Yeah. We kind of do that too. When my husband has a campaign that he would love to run where it's basically, but it's Fandelver, but you're rebuilding the town, and we're kind of rebuilding the town in our current campaign, but he wants to do them where it's like Fandelver and Conneberry, and well,
it's technically rebuilding the entire Tribor Trail.
husband is now back.
Sorry, y'all. Sometimes you gotta shower and you gotta get the stink off when you're a plumber, and that stink just didn't want to get off.
I feel ya.
So we're at Bastions. We were talking about cantrips. I don't know how much you heard about cantrips, but we can.
I actually didn't really hear much other than the change to Acid Splash, and you told me Chill Touch, which makes 0 sense. They got rid of they made it a touch spell without giving you a way to disengage.
Yeah.
Basically, the new Chill Touch will never be taken by any casters that are fully dedicated to the caster role. On the other hand, Vicious Mockery got invalidated by
True Strike.
Blade Ward and True Strike now.
Blade Ward and True Strike. I know that Blade Ward now has a reaction ability, and supposedly, even though it isn't on the PDF, according to the video, and according to Perkins, it's going as you go up in levels, it will actually get a further and further range where you can trigger it at further ranges away from you.
Yep.
Has that been put
True
in?
Strike is going to mean that you're now dealing radiant damage and getting advantage and using your spellcasting ability for normal weapon attacks. And
Yes.
that means that for a bard, congratulations, your hand crossbow now deals radiant damage and gets advantage and is doing more damage on average than your Vicious Mockery.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
It's so much better. I would take it.
yeah. I saw that one when they were discussing that. They didn't discuss that on the video, and that's about as far as I was able to
No,
go.
they didn't discuss True Strike on the video. It shocked me too. I was
No,
so
they
shocked.
discussed it a little bit on there, but nothing. They didn't explain what it did.
Yeah.
Well, again, as I said, They could not have made it worse, except if they said it used 2 actions instead of 1. So
Very true.
Yeah.
there was only up.
Yeah. So, bastions. Someone asked what a bastion is, and given that this is so new, bastions are basically player holds, player strongholds, player bases, houses, druid groves, wizard towers, whatever.
It's an official system for
You want me to
housing
read it?
and building your workshops and basically building a base.
Do you want me to read the description that they have here?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to try to do my best official announcer voice like I do for the school radio. A bastion is a location that belongs to a player character, a home, a stronghold, and a place of power that the character nurtures and develops over the course of the campaign. A bastion offers a character temporary refuge from the dangerous world of adventuring, and it provides opportunities for a character to craft magic items, conduct research, harvest poisons, build ships, and carry out a broad range of other activities. It is up to the DM to decide whether bastions are available in a campaign. Bastions are best suited for campaigns that allow characters to return to their bastions during intervals when they are not actively adventuring. There is no need to choose between going on adventures and commanding a bastion. A character can do both at once. A bastion has special facilities that generate in-game benefits, and these facilities can undertake projects while the character is otherwise preoccupied. Bastions are intended to be a haven for the characters who own them. Though random events might test the bastion from time to time, see the bastion's event section, the bastion can be destroyed in only 2 ways. See Fall of a Bastion section. Most importantly, a bastion is a creative playground for a player and a shared storytelling space in a campaign. A DM should be permissive, if as possible, with the stories players tell in their bastions, but players should know their control goes only as far as the campaign's larger story, which the DM strives to make fun for everyone. That was the description that they have for bastions.
Uh-huh.
Yep. It's a stronghold. It's a house.
So let's go down and let's see the mechanics of it.
Gaining a bastion. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here so that people that don't have access to the PDFs can see it. If you allow bastions in your campaign, characters acquire their bastions when they reach level 5. You and the players can decide together how these bastions come into being. A character might inherit or receive a parcel of land on which they build their bastion, or they might take a pre-existing structure and refurbish it, which is what we've done. It's fair to assume that work has been going on behind the scenes of the campaign during a character's early adventuring career, so the bastion is ready for use when the character reaches level 5. The shape, style, and function of a character's bastion are up to the player. For example, a wizard might want to build a tower, a cleric might want to establish a shrine, a fighter might want to build a fortified keep or a stronghold, and a rogue might want to establish a guild hall or lodge. Characters of other classes might choose one of these forms or combine them. Paladins might be similar to cleric shrines, but they're fortified like a fighter's stronghold. And multiple characters can combine their bastions to form a single large structure. See the bastion map. Oh, they have a map.
Might I mention that they're still not. They still made no mention of a ranger in any of it in that.
Or a monk.
Or a monk.
Or bard.
Or bard.
Or bard.
Bard school.
That's true.
Yep. Not every character needs a bastion. No kidding. It's fine for some players. Characters without bastions of their own can still gain some benefits of their friends. Sounds very similar to as Wolfir Bastion sounds like Kingmaker's Kingdom rules. We'll see how close that actually is. Every bastion contains basic and special facilities, which encompass everything from kitchens and bedrooms to fantastical menageries and magical laboratories. A character can add basic facilities to their bastion at any time by spending money and time. Each bastion begins with 2 special facilities, and a character can add additional facilities at 9, 13, and 17, basically at the 3 major tiers of play.
Okay.
Also, it might be worth reading the design note. So you can hire defenders and hirelings to ease the burden on players. We don't present or require statistics for bastion hirelings and defenders. All a player needs to track the number of each in their bastion. A player can assign names and personalities to the bastion's occupants as they see fit. And GP expenditures, which is the current problem with either owning a business in the DMG or running your own stronghold in the DMG. Bastions give characters new ways to spend their gold, but we want the gold to they spend to make them happy, as opposed to feeling like a mortgage payment, which is currently how both businesses and strongholds feel in the DMG if you run them rules as written.
That is true.
That's why I don't like them, usually.
Yeah, they're probably going to be like, look, you just don't pay taxes, all right? Taxes are already built into everything.
Yeah.
Although we have our own opinions on taxes and in game, but we'll skip on that.
I feel like in general they're trying to come up with a way to expend gold, but people don't understand the concept of how spending gold is in most of their campaigns. Mm-hmm. People complain whenever they have to spend gold, and so yeah, I think it's going to be another way that people complain when I say, yeah, you got to pay for that.
I'm used to it, but Bastions now have turns that occur every 7 days of in-game time. Mind you, in Forgotten Realms, 7 days is not a week, 10 days is. Not that anyone ever does that. And on a Bastion turn, a character can issue orders to the special facility. So basically, you get to keep track of a calendar. Yay.
Except for it's not according to the Forgotten Realms calendar.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the same amount of months, and they don't have the same amount of days in a month.
Yep. Fun fact, by the way, for those of you that didn't know Forgotten Realms lore.
Actually, they have the same amount of days in a month, but they have different amount of days in a week.
Yeah, they have 10 days in a week and 30 days in a month. Flat.
Imagine working an entire week, y'all. I'd be tired. I'd be real tired.
Son of a biscuit.
You hurt yourself at work.
It's also convenient that the Bastion does 7 days, because that's how long most people ideally want to be for a running campaign. They want to play once a week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's basically saying at the start of every session, you can do something with your Bastion.
And whoever really uses the Forgotten Realms, lore-based calendar. Almost nobody does. Bless you if you do. Good for you, but not us.
I started in that campaign that you were just talking about. We had started doing that, and I gave you all a write-up of how it all works. No one did it except me. And I was like, okay, I'm dropping this. Dropping it like a stone. All right.
Yeah.
So how Bastion turns work. By default, Bastion's turns occur every 7 days, giving characters regular opportunities to issue orders to their Bastions and reap the benefits of doing so. Here are some typical situations. The characters are on a long journey away from their Bastion. After the characters have been away for 7 days, you might say, time for a Bastion turn. Since you're not there, resolve the maintain order for your Bastions. That is not worded very well. And then roll for Bastion events. The characters spend 7 days or more in their Bastions between adventures. You might say you have 6 weeks to spend in your Bastions. Go ahead and resolve 6 Bastion turns. The characters return to their Bastions in the midst of an adventure. You might say you have just enough time to issue a new order if you would like. Take a Bastion turn before you leave again in the morning. The characters are adventuring near their Bastion and are spending every night in their Bastions. You might say it's been a week since your last Bastion turn, so you can take a new one now. Or, anything else you can say. It's like, yo, it's been 7 days. What's the next thing you want done at your Bastion? Otherwise, these guys are going to sit on their asses and they're going to take your money. Which they're going to take your money anyway.
Yeah. Wolf says 7 days is too short, and I'm like, I can agree with that depending on what kind of campaign you're running. Yes, we have a doggo in the background that is not happy with us.
Kenobi, come.
He'll be on the camera soon.
Come here.
Against his will.
Oh.
Aim for about 6 to 8 Bastion turns per level. And now we have a Kenobi!
Hopefully this will shut him up.
I'm getting pets. Oh, Monty just poked me in the side. She needs pets too. So now Bastions have points. So yet another resource to keep track of.
So you mean another thing for me to keep track of?
Basically. Another one for the DM to keep track of. Each special facility in a Bastion generates Bastion points during a turn, depending on the facility and the Bastion order issued to the facility. The more we say Bastion, the more I keep thinking of Gaston, and I don't know why. Players are responsible for tracking how many BP their characters have, and BP can't be transferred between characters or their Bastions. Good. I'm glad that they're basically saying, players, you gotta do it. I won't. The character can spend their BP to acquire magic items from their bastion or to receive certain other special things. So they're just talking about BP. Basically, it's just extra stuff.
So I got a question, Colin. How do you have housing in your game, in some of the games that you play in?
Yes, I've had both standard housing, players renovating a place to make basically their base. I have been the player that has renovated a place, both on my own and with the rest of the party. I've also had like mobile ships and stuff like that, acting as players' home bases. Typically, there is some system of making personalized space for players and some way of having your own base.
So let's see, how do they acquire bastion points? So that's this one here. Each special facility description indicates the number of BP the facility generates, so the bastion will create
Its
points.
own bastion points.
And it creates 1d4. You can also spend 25 GP when issuing a bastion order to a facility to allow the player to roll the die for the bastion point generation twice. So they can just spend gold to get more points.
I mean, so they get a gotcha.
Yeah.
A gotcha mechanic to
Gotcha mechanic.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with
anything
this.
that generates gold loss. People get too much money and then they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, I don't. That seems outrageous, paying $2,000 for a magic item. It's like, wait.
This caveat here makes me laugh. So spending bastion points, there's a whole bunch of, like, you can get magic items and the costs are listed here in level prereqs. Characters who have reached level 20 can use bastion points to acquire magic items each time they earn a bonus feat. They're starting to mention level 20 a lot more.
That
I'm
doesn't mean
wondering.
that they're going to put anything towards it.
I know, but I do wonder if that means they will.
They got no idea how to balance the game currently.
Good point.
I mean, literally, the last one they're talking about giving monsters, basically invalidating an entire class. Then they basically said in this video that, okay, so Rangers were lower on the list. they're a high plate class that's getting this, but apparently they got just at 70%.
So they're fine.
And so we instead of putting them on the next play test with every other class that we feel needed it, like the druid and the monk, which they said they could have left the monk. They're still sticking to their guns. They could have just changed the dice for unarmed strikes, and it would have been good. But apparently they're sticking to they're saying no. We're going to do one more test, but they're only showing one, and that's the open hand or whatever it's called now, the unarmed one, as opposed to the other two that they're generating.
I really want to see more of a breakdown on how that points came out for the subclasses for Monk. Because it did feel a bit more like revised Ranger. But I wouldn't necessarily call it knocking out the park with any of the subclasses.
Yeah, but
they said that Monk was guaranteed to get 2 iterations, and this next one is the second iteration, but it's also the last one we're going to get.
And they're only going to show one subclass. I do not like it. I think it's they're only going to show the subclass and the main class.
I just feel like there's still some refinements that need to be made with the other subclasses.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely.
Also, just my general thought is they still don't know how they want to generate a ranger in gameplay. They have the idea of like a ranger fantasy, but they don't have. But the ranger fantasy is like Aragorn still, and Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, to me, the ranger is not that. The ranger is like a cowboy. Like, when I think of a ranger, I literally think of a cowboy. By the way, shout out to Pointy Hat and his free class of that's the Cowboy Ranger. Love it. It's really cool. And also, I think of like a hunter. The hunter is the only one I really get. I don't get the concept of it being the pet class. If anything, I actually am more used to the druid being the pet class, but that's 3.5. I mean, rangers could. What?
Arlon mentioned Ranger Dorden. He might know what that is.
Dread Stewarden.
Yeah.
I get that one. But they still aren't really. They don't have a concept of how they're gonna make it in the game, and it's very upsetting to me because I like it. I like that, and I like the concept of Drits, but you can't really play Drits very well in 5th edition.
Y'all, look at this. Other uses of Bastion points. Characters can spend 10 Bastion points to ensure that word of their heroic deeds spread throughout the region around their Bastion. For the next 7 days, the characters have advantage on all charisma checks within 50 miles of their Bastion. So that's 250 gold to do that.
You can
just
get
to
a rare magic item for that.
Yeah. And then when a character dies, they can spend 100 Bastion points to 2,500 gold to return to life at their Bastion next dawn.
What's 2,500 gold?
I'm getting that from just spending gold. So spending 25 GP when issuing a Bastion order to a facility allows the player to roll the die for that facility's Bastion point generation twice and use the higher of the rolls. So I'm just assuming that they only get one minimum point. So if you assume 25 gold per point, yeah.
I'd say, especially in a party that doesn't have Revivify on standby at all times, this is, especially considering that actually with the new dying rules, you are more likely to die.
Yeah.
You just are. Because you'll be staying unconscious. So, if, say, the person who's unconscious is the healer and they can't get you above the threshold to go conscious again, then yeah, the party as they slowly dwindle down is probably all going, even if they all succeed their death saving throws, they remain unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then the monsters just beat on their bodies. And that will kill them.
Or if y'all are all unconscious, the monsters will probably start eating you.
That too.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of looking through Bastion facilities. We can just kind of skim through this to see what they're looking at. They've got facility spaces, and they're basically telling the players, you need to build a map, which...
I know my players, and they're not going to make one. They're not going to make a map. And so I'm going to have to draw out the thing, and then they're going to be like, I don't like that. Then I'm going to have to envision it. I'm going to draw it. And then it's going to be like 3 versions of me making that. They'll forget everything about the shit. Then I'm going to have to remind them.
When you introduce bastions, just assume that you're losing the session to setting it up. So if you're doing that anyways, I would probably just come with a sheet of paper and be like, okay, guys, you're making a bastion. You're going for cramped, roomy, or vast? Cool. Okay, here's a sheet of paper, slide it across to them, figure it out.
Yeah.
You have this many squares, put them in whatever arrangement you want.
I'd rather just pay the hiring costs of a mid-level wizard that has 4th level spells, because then they cast Wall of Stone, or you can get a druid. Actually, Wall of Stone is a 5th level spell. But you can also get...
That way you actually know the floor. It doesn't matter how it's constructed. So that way the DM can run what's going on inside.
I know. I'm just saying I don't really have anybody draw it out because no one really cares how it looks inside of their thing. They get their own thought in their brain. And then I'm just like, okay, well, here's this. Now you've built this. There's literally that wizard spell that allows you to build a tower each night. And if you continuously do it from for a year, it becomes a permanent tower.
Yeah.
Anyway, for me, this is not something that I would put in my game. If people would ask for this, I'd be like, no. This is going to be me managing it, and I don't want to do it.
You need more players like me, my friend. I will manage it on your behalf.
Yeah.
I'm what is the Warhammer equivalent of Gilliman, okay? I'm the tax guy. I am the logistics guy.
Oh, I love that stuff, but it's just, it becomes where my party doesn't want to keep track of the things. I'm all up for putting out taxes and doing this, and I like politics. I love having politics in my game, where you're greasing the wheels, you're literally paying bribes, everything else like that. You get famous, yeah, you best start figuring out who you need to be handing some money off to. But so I come up with my own ways of getting rid of money. It's like, this is just something like when we had it for Dragon Heist, which was the
Dragon
we
Heist.
had the we basically turned it into a gambling house. I don't remember what it is.
Yep.
Troll Skull Alley or something.
Yeah, they turned it into a gambling house, and they like bought other houses around there to expand it. It was actually pretty cool, but
that was me keeping track of
Yes,
it.
it
No one
was.
else.
Yep.
I kept track of all the money and everything else.
Yep.
And everyone else was like, "What is in this thing? It's this and this and this and this." And they were like, "Okay, yeah, I'm the only one that's going to do it. No one else will do it." And I'm not making that for my party.
yeah, it's so the bastions also have like adding facilities costs quite a bit of money. And if you aren't someone that thinks of the fact that wizards can, build things and druids can use mold earth to build stuff, I swear he's an exception to most players.
No, but it's like civic engineering. I like spells that have the concept of basically being able to move earth, because when you go into if you work in construction, one of the most expensive thing is excavation and basically setting up foundations. Literally, the cantrip Mold Earth allows you to move a 5-foot cube of earth. That is almost I believe that's almost a ton of, an actual ton. If you go a 5 by 5 by 5 cube, that's close to a ton of weight in 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The amount of earth moving that is doing is insane.
Mm-hmm. It'd be more appropriate to be a 1-foot cube, but they're not going to do that.
No.
No.
So, I mean, mold earth in and of itself allows you to build things. You can compress dirt. So it's like, I could, just with a cantrip, I can build basically a mounded wall around a town if you gave me basically a week.
Yeah. So you have your basic facilities, and then you have special facilities. Special facilities are limited to levels, so if you're level 5, you can only have 2, 9 is 4, etc. And you have to be that level or higher to gain a facility that is special. And they may also have other prerequisites, which these are the wizard focuses. They have other ones in here somewhere.
Let's
we'll
go
find
to the
them.
hirelings. That's the more important thing. The space stuff people will figure out on their own.
Hirelings. A special facility comes with one or more hirelings. So when you make a special facility, it comes with one or more hirelings who work and maintain it. They also execute bastion orders as described in the following section. A player can assign names. Yeah. Each special facility in a bastion is assumed to generate enough income to pay the salary of its hirelings. Hirelings follow the orders they're given and are assumed to be loyal to the bastion's owner. So you don't have to keep track of paying your hirelings.
Screw that. I don't like that.
I know you don't.
People need to earn a wage.
And then on a bastion's turn, you can cast orders. They've got the maintain order is unusual in that it's issued to the whole bastion rather than to one or more special facilities. So you can cast orders to facilities.
Someone just said average 6780 unless you have action surge, but I think that's a
this was a while ago. This is for the cantrips. Arlon is mentioning, looking at it, it's similar to Kingdom's rules without the Kingdom part. In effect, it looks like a keep, which eventually becomes a small enclave. Reminds me of the AD&D rules for high-level games.
You are correct. It does definitely remind me a lot of that. When you just said that, I was like, yep. Mm-hmm. It is actually, a lot of it is almost taken straight from itself, except for the hirelings. You did have to pay them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like we have the special facilities on page 6. We've got an arcane study, an armory, barracks, gardens, library, sanctuary, smithy, storehouse, workshop, gaming hall, greenhouse, laboratory, sacristry, I don't know what that is, a scriptorium, and a stable. And then, oh wow, they have more. Teleportation circle, everyone's going to pick that. Theater, training area, trophy room, archive, meditation chamber, menagerie, observatory, pub, reliquary, demiplane, guild hall, sanctum, and war room. Interesting. My first thought was teleportation circle. I would be like, boink!
Yeah, that's actually the biggest use for most bases. I've ever established. It's just to set up a teleportation circle whenever I'm a sorcerer or wizard.
Yeah. So, I mean, that one makes sense. The rest of these, pub is obvious, but why is the pub level 13?
Because it can make a lot more money, supposedly.
Yeah, that would make more sense. So, are you seeing anything interesting, Colin, as you're kind of flipping through?
Nothing in particular.
Okay.
For me, I just kind of lose interest in this stuff.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
When I'm actually playing it, I will study it specifically for what my class is, but I don't take in a ton of information all at once at the end of the day.
Yeah. For me, it's just...
Yeah. This is cool.
I like the guilds. I think if they gave you presets for what these might be, along with some maps, though, for the DMG, that would be actually really nice.
Yeah, I can agree.
If they gave some pre-made ones and that shows like sizing and as they get larger, that'd be a great one.
Yes.
That actually...
Because then you could just if your players are lazy, you could just one for one be like, okay, we're just going to take the one that's in the DMG and pop that's yours.
And that alone will make a bunch of third-party content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see how this is definitely going to make some third-party content. And people already do it, but yeah.
Yeah. And now we have guilds at level 17, and that's just all this stuff. They're putting so much stuff at the higher levels.
It's to try and give people a way to spend money so that it doesn't go out
of hand, which is what happens normally, where you just end up with players for a long time getting into the habit of basically hoarding all their money, and then suddenly the switch gets flipped and they suddenly don't have to worry about money spending at all.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just kind of glancing through here. I got to laboratory because that's the one my brain went to after teleportation circle. You can tell your facility's hirelings to craft a vial of acid, a flask of alchemist fire, or a bottle of ink, and it takes 7 days. And it costs you half the item's normal cost. Now, if any of you have watched my alchemist kit video, this is crap. Because it should not take 7 days. If you have an alchemy kit and you are proficient with it, it will take a day.
Yep.
Same cost. Same thing.
Isn't that on Xanathar's guide?
It is indeed in Xanathar's guide.
So they're contradicting what they did in Xanathar's and they made those changes in Xanathar's because people complained that you couldn't do anything with the alchemist kit in the 2014. So they're reverting. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And you can commission a poison or a potion. Same concept. You can make this stuff in 1 day if you have an alchemist kit or a poisoner's kit, even though you can't make poisons with an alchemist kit. My rant is on the video for that. But yeah, this is dumb. I would not pick a lab. No way.
Yeah. The tower seems like it would be most useful. Like, the class that most wants to take something like this anyways tends to be...
The wizard.
The wizard player. Yeah.
The druid with the grove.
Yeah.
The druid with the grove, but like in terms of what kind of player, in terms of player archetype, is most likely to be like, I'm invested in this, I'm going to put resources into this, I'm going to make this the best it can be, and I'm going to actually do my own management of it. It's going to be the wizard.
Yeah.
They're already managing their spell list. They're looking for more spell scrolls. As a matter of fact, the wizard is probably the most expensive class to play anyways.
Yes, it is.
Oh, 100%.
You always want more spell scrolls, more books.
And you have to spend money to put your spells into your books. So technically, every spell you get, you gotta spend fucking money. Oops, I didn't.
The wizard is always like the rest of the party's like, we got plenty of money, and the wizard's like, you have plenty of money.
Yeah, it's because they don't want to invest money into the wizard, and then so the wizard. I like the wizard specifically because it does cause you to expend money. And consequently, it makes you make more sense. It gives you a reason to go and do things. That's why I like the wizard. I think is inbuilt, has more things that it can do with the world, aside from just its spells, because it has to spend money, and money. And here's a hot take. I like first edition in that money is experience.
Yes.
Mhm.
and that you have to spend money to sleep. It's like every time that you take a long rest, you have to spend money.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm just kind of looking through these, and so far the best one I've seen is the demi-plane. Because
Yes.
you can become scry-proof.
yeah.
Most
But
of
you
these
can
are
make
just
demi-plane at what level do you get demi-plane at?
17.
Hey, look, it's the same time that you can cast the spell demi-plane.
Yeah.
And slowly build out one demi-plane onto another, and you just keep casting the spell to make it larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And hey, look, then you become an Amaskari.
Well, what it looks like they did is, at least from what I'm gathering, it looks like they took the tools from Xanathars and said, why don't we take what the tools can do in Xanathars and put them into these specialty facilities, but make it take 7 days.
Because then people will have to use their tools more often.
Which people don't want to use tools, which is a damn shame.
I know, I love the carpenter's tools.
Everyone
wants to have brewer's tools, but carpenter's tools are actually really useful.
Yeah. That's not the one
Yes,
I'm
I
doing
love
next,
them.
but yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's how I made a tank.
Mm-hmm.
Carpenter's tools are like, it looked like a 40k orc tank, and it worked on the power of belief of just as much, basically.
Yes,
But
yes, I love that.
But no, yeah, carpenter's tools are one of the best one of the best tool sets. Mason's tools aren't bad. Leatherworker's tools and the weaver's tools. The weaver's tools are surprisingly useful. Don't sleep on those.
Yep.
And alchemist tools are actually pretty not useful because they purposely limit a lot of it. But
because they're worried about people making bombs.
Yeah, they were like, oh, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. But meanwhile, they gave you, like, the amount of abilities that you can do with a carpenter's tool set is just bonkers. It's like, hey, do I have wood? Do I have iron near me? I can use nails, I can do this, I can build whole buildings, I can repair buildings, I can do all this. It's like, I can make barrels and then sell them, and barrels have a cost. There's it. It's not hard to do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow,
It's a lot of complicated bullcrap. It actually looks more complicated than the Kingdoms, because I think we have that book. Or no, I think that was Kurt's.
We have a copy of it.
The only one that I think is completely busted, in terms of the toolkits, though, is still the healer's kit.
Oh, the healer's kit, yeah.
Yeah, the healer's kit, especially if you
We're
have the
gonna
healer
have-
feet.
There's a video in your queue of videos, I think, that's just how healer's kits are broken.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It outscales most potion. It stays better than most potions and most healing throughout most of the game. All the way up to level 6, it's way better.
Well, that and also it's like, hey, make sure every party member has one on them at all times. Congratulations. Never make a medicine check again to stabilize a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you, considering it only costs 10 gold per person as opposed to 50 gold per potion, if you have someone that's a healer, if everyone in your group picked the healer feat, you would actually be your group would be better at healing than just having a dedicated healer. You would probably be a lot more efficient.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, with my peace clerk, my plan is to take the healer feats so I could just start running around with healer's kits instead of using my spells.
Do that, and then also get the Arcana skill so you can make spell scrolls of your spells.
Yep.
Then never have to spend your spell slots. Anyway, can we finally get past bastions?
This
It's
is all,
like most of this document.
that is
so.
90% of this document, and we covered cantrips first.
Oh, well then never mind. I'm gonna dip out and grab me some dinner, cause God, this looks boring as hell.
Most
y'all.
of this is not great. There's a handful of things I see that might be okay, like the trainer's one. You gain proficiency in one of the following skills for 7 days is not bad. Like, being able to be trained, and that's level 9. These level 9 ones are actually pretty good. The rest of them are kind of meh.
That's really good. But if
The
you
problem is the fact that level 9's like for most people, the end of the campaign.
Agreed completely. I mean, like, the training area I thought was pretty good. Teleportation circle's level 9. Theater was, I kind of skipped past that.
And can we go back to the training thing?
Yeah.
If you go into the DMG, I don't remember which page it is. It says alternative rewards as opposed to it. It literally tells you that it makes perfect sense that if a character wants to train themselves, as in they can actually, if they want to spend the time to gain a proficiency in another skill of their choice, or increase it to even give themselves expertise. It does not have to be just the rogue or anything else like that. They can spend that time and that money usually once per tier. It's literally inbuilt into the DMG. So,
yeah, this is built into the DMG. I've seen this before.
Yeah,
or something similar.
Basically, almost all of this thing right here is already exists in the DMG. You can also get yourself like a second fighting style. All of these are available options.
Wolf brought up a great point here. A lot of these benefits are only good if you don't travel more than 3.5 days away from your bastion. So it's not good if the players travel across the nation and or continent, which, that's true. Hence the teleportation circle, and I think that's really good.
All honesty, it's
still not good. It's not great.
The fact is also that you're having to make a different bastion for each person. I get how that makes that gives each person their own little house, but instead, usually your party is going to want to. The first thing I know that my party would do if I actually are interested in this is how can we pull our resources to make one bastion. But
actually, it says you can combine them.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about being able to combine them because you can't combine your points.
You can't combine your points, but you can combine them into physical.
Yeah, you can physically combine them, but you can't. They're supposed to mechanically remain separate because otherwise you'd have like everyone be like, okay, who's got the most powerful feature at this level? Okay, we're gonna spend all bastion points on that.
Yeah.
Isn't that still kind of what everyone is gonna want to do?
It won't be as bad because everyone will be independently gaining their bastion points, and so it will be a much slower curve rather than immediately you have quadrupled, if you're assuming a party of 4, the amount of bastion points suddenly flooding in.
Yeah.
When you're only supposed to have, by the time you level up, you're supposed to have at least 6 or 7 bastion turns have passed, basically, and instead you've gotten the amount of points of 4 to 8 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just something that to me I'm like,
you're not going to use it.
I wouldn't. If it was me DMing it, I know that you don't care enough about this type of stuff, and you already know most of what tools are going to be, so you can already achieve this, and you already know that. Like for me, in general, when everyone gets a tier of play, I let everyone get a either a feat or gain a proficiency. I literally build that into the campaigns. Every tier of play, you get one of those.
Yep.
And that's to basically incentivize the passage of time, and specifically, it's to let people pick some of the more weird feats. The chef feat, y'all, it's really useful, but we're comparing it to, especially when you have marshals, required feats. I really hate that there are required feats to keep up with the other classes, and then they're like, oh well, that's not a problem. We're going to start buffing some of the spellcasters.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Great Weapon Master should just be on the barbarian. That should be a part of it. And it's like, oh, great weapon fighting. All the marshals should get some kind of fighting style. The fact that the barbarian and the rogue don't get it is weird. It makes it harder for them to scale. And then if you pick like great weapon fighting, you should be able to use the heavy property of that for that. And you shouldn't have to expend a feat.
No.
In fact, I think well, actually you're DMing that, but on the next
one, I'm DMing the TOA. Yeah.
And my next one, I'm gonna remove that feat and sharpshooter, and just be like, hey, you get these at 4th level.
Just make it simple, because they're so must-have, they break the game. And so it looks like
Some
we
of
kind
the
of...
Bastion events seem decent, at least.
Which one?
Some of the Bastion events seem decent, at least.
I
Bastion
mean,
events.
these are down here, so you can roll on this table, attack, lost hirelings, refugees, friendly visitors, request for aid, honor guests.
Much better than, congratulations, you just rolled in this table. You've gone bankrupt and lost everything.
Yeah, exactly. Criminal hireling, and then they just leave. Extraordinary opportunity. You get an extra 2d4 bastion points if you spend 500 gold to host a festival, fund the research of a powerful spellcaster, or appease a domineering noble.
Has anyone ever looked up how Shadow Dark, how you're supposed to spend your money specifically in Shadow Dark? It's an OSR game that's relatively new. I think some of the stuff is a free PDF. Literally, you're supposed to spend your money, and it literally has like a table of how you do it. It's basically grand partying. You're adventurers. You're probably gamblers. You're not gonna. Let's face it. When we actually think of like someone traveling and picking a life of basically living in a saddle or traveling by foot in armor, carrying weapons, these are not normal people. They like to drink, they like to fight, they're willing to risk their life, even if it's the wizard. These are crazy people, y'all. So I like Shadow Dark's version of how they spend money and everything on that. I think it's a great way of how it burns through money, because like the more money you can spend, the better it is, and then you end up with lingering effects that can benefit you, and some that can give minor things that go away over time. But like you can end up hosting a party for, if you go spend the higher amount, you can host a party for like an entire town, and it gives you like measurable benefits being in the town afterwards. And that way you're not having to think about, oh, this and this, and now I have to keep up with the taxes and all this other thing. I think what we're going to need to do is probably make a video about that. So, and show that, how Shadow Dark does that.
Yeah.
That's actually exactly what's in here on the event description, basically, for one of the events.
Which one?
Unexpected, extraordinary expense.
Extraordinary expense down. Go up. Go up. 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 Extraordinary opportunity.
Yeah, that one.
You gain 500 to host a festival. Fund the research. Yeah, this one though actually has like funny things that happen to you.
Something similar for magical discovery.
Yeah, here, hold on. I'll see if I can pull this up. If I can pull it up, but it's...
So, extraordinary opportunity in this gives you an extra 2d4 bastion points if you spend 500 gold to host a festival, fund the research of someone, or appease a domineering noble, which is what I mentioned earlier. Colin brought up magical discovery. Your hirelings accidentally discover or create an uncommon magic item of your choice. The magic item cannot be a suit of armor, shield, or weapon, and its magic is temporary. Its properties start to function when you claim the item and last until the start of your next bastion turn.
I actually like that idea. Very temporary magic items that will basically only last for one session.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what items you particularly want. Very much would depend campaign by campaign, but I'm thinking that there's got to be a way to get permanent benefits out of a temporary magic item. Almost certainly. As a matter of fact, does the magical discovery, is there anything stopping you from getting any magic item that you want for that temporary basis?
Other than suit of armor, shield, or weapon? No.
Yeah. Is there a table earlier where it was showing magic item stuff? If it doesn't have something to limit that, spending magic bastion points, it's completely independent of that, it seems.
It is independent of that. Yeah. That is correct.
Okay, I can think of a few ways. You could get permanent stat-ups.
Oh.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. If the GM would let you.
Yeah, if the GM would let you. Theoretically, you get permanent stat ups.
That like having my players just be as powerful as possible.
You could try to do something like a spell storing ring, I guess, and then it would just be for the next 7 days. Maybe give it to one of your marshals.
No, I'm not.
They can spells.
Yeah.
They can hold concentration. Your familiar can hold concentration. You can pull something like that off on a temporary basis. You basically, the best value out of a bastion for that magical discovery one, which you wouldn't be able to reliably get, mind you. So it's not as powerful as it would seem.
Yeah.
On the face of it.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't reliably do anything to skew it towards that.
Yes.
But if you happen into it, it would just immediately get everyone's attention. Like, oh shoot! Now we need to come up with a way to quickly think of something that we all want that will hopefully have a long-term benefit, even when the magic item's gone.
Right.
I think that's actually really fun as a creative problem.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
EDM says like you can't go for the permanent stat upgrade books to give yourself,
yeah,
a permanent +2 to your dex in wisdom or charisma.
See, it's limited to uncommon magic items though. I don't think the books are uncommon.
No, they're legendary.
Yeah, so
all of those books are legendary.
Yeah, so basically, because Wolf pointed out it's limited to uncommon magic items, so that takes care of the books.
Good. But still, it'll be very interesting to see used. You could... Actually, for like a cleric, you could definitely do if you got a ring of spell scoring, you basically just fill it up with ceremony. Have your hirelings then constantly do ceremony to sanctify the ground in your temple.
Yep.
Maybe that would be an interesting way to do it.
That would be very interesting.
What would happen?
If you accidentally got like a ring of spell storing and just cast ceremony into it and let your underlings just use ceremony all the time for a week to sanctify your place.
Yeah.
I could also do plant growth in there. Just then sell all the crops suddenly that develop.
Yeah, crops are a little weird though. They probably have it in somewhere else in the DM book, but
remember the 8-hour version of plant growth affects an area over 1.5 miles
for an entire year.
1 pound of crops is 1 gold piece.
Okay.
So that's money. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You basically run a plantation now.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the end game of any druid in terms if you really want to make money. But yeah, it's just...
Yeah, now we're back to the cantrips. So I think we've covered everything for the most part.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
This is a very short UA.
Yeah, I mean, the part that actually interested me was the revised cantrips, and that took us a whole, 45 minutes to go through because we were just, comparing and contrasting.
Yeah.
The rest of this is just kind of, yeah, okay, I can see this being useful. If you've never done a stronghold before, this is an okay way to start, but...
And also, they talked about wanting to use it as a way to get players to get at least a small taste of what it's like to be DM.
Yeah.
That's why they're like, make a map of your bastion, get involved with the hirelings, name them, give them personalities, stuff like that. They're trying to get players basically primed, this is the baby steps towards what it is actually like to run the game as a DM.
Exactly.
This is your own DM space.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah.
And I think for that purpose, it does an okay job.
Yeah. It does an okay job. I've seen... I can argue I've seen worse things. I have not, but it's an okay thing.
Yeah, I think that you could do better by simply being like, hey, I'm going to take a step back for one session. This is going to be a downtime session. One of you needs to step in the DM seat for an hour, and we're just going to rotate you all through.
Yeah.
You're going to just narrate what each other is doing and to get some fun stories.
Yeah.
I've done that, and that's my favorite way to get players acclimated to what it's really like to be a DM. But you have to get everyone comfortable with doing that. So
My preferred way I and I kind of just started it in our last campaign where I was just where it was I would say I'd like you to try and you tell me what this character is. It's like here's this. You're walking up to the bartender, or actually it's like you walk up to this bar. Tell me about this bar, Bonnie. Go. It's like it's whatever you want it to be. There's no wrong answers. You tell me that, and we ended up making a dwarf majority gay bar.
Yeah, that actually turned out really funny.
It was hilarious. I think it was the Tilted Tankard.
Yeah, something like that. Had a lot of shenanigans with those dwarves. All because she just said something as a dwarf, and all of a sudden we're all like, yeah, that's a gay dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But
So, yeah, if this is going to be the type of thing that they're hoping to do for the new DMG,
This is on the right
Bastion
track.
set is how they're trying to do that. I think they're on the right track. I want a TLDR page.
Yes!
yeah,
Yes!
a TLDR would be really
That
helpful.
should be the first thing. So the first thing should be a TLDR page. It's the very in-depth mechanics page. Be like, okay, here's the TLDR. Here's how people get a bastion.
Yep.
Bastion terms. Here are relevant charts.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. They definitely need a TLDR.
I don't think they're gonna. But that's the thing is, I don't think they're going to build out those direct charts and everything like that in the DMG. They usually try and avoid those. Now, I like this in the concept that they're giving people a direct idea of, hey, this is how you spend your gold. This is how this tells people, hey, this is something that you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But other than
There's a
that,
point of reference for how much gold is supposed to be worth within a worth.
yeah.
Gold is supposed to mean a lot.
Yeah.
And I think-
most of the time, for adventurers, it feels like chump change.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
It feels like this is the equivalent of a $1 bill. Okay?
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, throwing around a gold piece is like, congratulations, I just put $1,000 check on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the average commoner works for a wage of eight coppers a week.
Yeah.
You need 100 coppers to equal 1 gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want you to think of a week's wage.
Don't piss off when you steal their pigs.
Yeah, a week's wage for a commoner is 8 copper, according to the DMG. Just to give you a concept of that,
Yeah.
8 copper is a weekly wage for a commoner.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Adventurers are weird in that way. They're the only ones who pretty much, and it's mainly because nobody wants to do the conversions. They're the only ones that are constantly high rollers who do most expenses in gold.
Yeah.
Them and like royalty are the only ones who are, and nobility are the only ones who might do that.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it. If you're getting this much money from something, who's backing it? That's what I usually like to put into my world is who's backing this? Why are they willing to give out this much money?
Yeah.
Who's benefiting from it? Really?
Well, obviously it's the Cult of Cthulhu. It always comes back to the Cult of Cthulhu.
I don't know about Cult of Cthulhu, but there are definitely some cults that might be benefiting from it.
Like the cult of the Mo.
Yeah, the Cult of the Mo just likes to leech out of my pocket.
I am good at doing that. I am a dog.
Yeah, I'm looking for my wallet now because.
All right.
Everyone
Well,
got it?
I think we've covered the majority of this playtest. So we're going to go ahead and get off the live. If you guys want to keep chit-chatting with us, we'll be here in Discord probably. But
Thanks everybody for showing up. We didn't really plan this one, but they
sprung it on us.
They kind of sprung this, and I was like, okay, we probably need to cover this.
Yep. So hopefully some things are interesting. The bastions, well, you guys can probably read that yourself. There's a lot in there. The cantrips, we went over that in great detail in the first hour or so. So just go ahead and look through that and enjoy the fact that True Strike will no longer be a meme of a bad cantrip. And we will see y'all next time. May your day be fabulous and full of friends. And thank you, Colin, for joining us.
No problem.
All right. Have a great night. Great night.